My whole controversy started out with some leaked DMs where I said something like along the lines of, hey, did you see Trisha Paytas freaking out on me? LOL. And this started, and it turned into this whole narrative, and all of these lies started getting spread about me.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm not sure if you remember this, but the Rewired Soul had a controversy a little over a month ago where he was accused of being a fake therapist, and he used celebrities as clickbait to discuss mental health issues. Tons and tons and tons of people made videos on the Rewired Soul, everything wrong with Rewired Soul. I'm sure you've all seen one or two, or at least the whole thumbnail for one anyway. Alright, so since the Rewired Soul is a small YouTuber and a lot of people don't really know who he is, I'm going to do a quick rundown. So the Rewired Soul, birth name Chris Boutte, is a 33-year-old YouTuber who was born in Fresno, California. He later moved to Nevada. He makes YouTube videos about mental health, but he recently had to rebrand as a social media rants and commentary channel. And he finally released a YouTube statement about his controversy. Let's crack the teapot.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, oh my God. Bitch, I run the game, y'all just commentate from the side. I'm like, oh God.
Alright, so in this long-ass video of Chris ranting, which is titled, James Charles' No More Lies inspired me to spill all the tea. I watched that long-ass video so you don't have to. I'm gonna sum it up in 15 minutes or less. Okay, so basically, first of all, what he does in this video is he starts out with something very manipulative, in my opinion. He starts out with saying how much this drama has hurt him and how much his controversies have hurt him before even getting into what the controversies are, which seems like he's trying to pull the sympathy card. I'm not going to play a clip of that because it's 2 minutes long. It's just nonsense, and I didn't even understand what the hell he was trying to say here. But first of all, he does address his controversy with Bipolar Corner. I'm gonna let Chris explain that right here.
That's cool. Well, anyways, in my live stream, which was filled with women, Gary from Bipolar Corner was in there, and he started talking about his sex addiction, and he started asking the other women in the live stream if they had experience with a sex addiction as well, all right? And it got to a point where it was completely crossing lines, all right? He was telling women in my live stream to DM him and to talk about it and to open up about it and things like that. I personally found this highly inappropriate, and seeing as how Gary had a track record of blowing up on me and everything like that, I was like, you know what? I'm just done with this guy. I'm not gonna handle it anymore. Like, peace.
All right, so basically what happened was Gary from Bipolar Corner and Chris were disagreeing with each other for a long time, but in a friendly way, until Gary one day popped into one of Chris's live streams and asked all the women on there to DM him talking about sex addiction. Chris did say it crossed a line, which he doesn't really give any proof on the receipts, so I can't confirm or deny that. But yeah, crossing a line is a personal boundary set by Chris, especially if we have no receipts or no proof. We have to stay relatively unbiased on the scandal. But we also have to take into account Chris's tone of voice. I know that I'm no analyst on this, but Chris has a way of presenting himself. And especially in this video, it's different than in a lot of videos. Because I used to watch him for about 8 or 9 months ago, I used to watch him. But in this video, he was basically screaming at the camera like he was either angry or extremely pissed off, which, that's really, really important to take into account whenever he addresses the further scandals. Now, he goes on to address the scandal with Leafy Green. I'm going to let Chris explain that right here.
And Leafy Greens blew something out of proportion where I said on our podcast that I think she has BPD, okay? The only reason I said that, and maybe I should have researched her videos a little bit more, but the only reason I said that was because I looked and she had dozens of videos about her borderline personality disorder diagnosis. So in my podcast, I was trying to redirect a lot of my audience who struggles with BPD over to her channel because she makes a lot of videos about BPD.
All right, so to sum that all up for you, Chris basically talks about how he did not do adequate research on Leafy Greens before doing a podcast with her. Now, he doesn't even take a second to apologize for this. And His lack of research is nobody else's fault but his own, and he really needs to own up to his mistakes. He needs to do better research with the people that he interviews. Now, if he would have taken that mistake and apologized for that mistake, now that's one thing. But in this video addressing the scandal, he doesn't even think to apologize. He just has this very, very defensive posture and this defensive way of doing things, like it's Leafy Green's fault for something that was his fault. Like, it makes no sense to me. Now, Chris goes on to discuss the relationships between the drama channels and himself.
I've been nothing but kind and courteous to Petty Page, Dustin Daly. Dustin Daly, him and I had talked a few times just like openly on Twitter. That was about it. The viewer's voice, at that time, I respected what Nick was doing with his channel and his hustle and everything like that. And again, I screwed up. I was trying to get the story out there about Trisha Paytas attacking me. And it was so stupid and so dumb, and I wish I could take it back because it would have just gotten out there anyway, so it was dumb of me to try to feed that story to people.
So first of all, congratulations, Chris. You finally owned up to one of your mistakes. You said that the whole telling the viewer's voice about the tweet with Trisha Paytas, luckily, he finally owned up to a mistake. He said it was dumb, he said it was stupid, and I've got to give credit where credit's due. Man, finally, you're owning up to something. Congratulations. Secondly, now, whenever he talks about his relationship with Petty Page, I do find it a bit manipulative, especially when he said, quote, "I've been nothing but kind and courteous to Petty Page." That just seems very manipulative, like he's pulling the sympathy card. Like, if you have to tell people that you're always so kind and courteous, you're usually not. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Chris goes on to talk about his manipulation right here.
One of the main issues I had with the whole narrative created about me was how manipulative I am. Right? Like, I'm just nice to people. I try to be nice to people. Now, don't get me wrong, I call people out on their BS and I give tough love, but I try to be kind and generous and nice to people. But that was spun into this whole narrative of Chris is only nice to people because he's trying to get something. And that's something that I took a lot of offense to because that's something that I've worked really, really hard to change since I started my recovery journey almost 7 years ago. So I didn't appreciate how people like Petty Page were saying I was only being nice to try to get them to get me more views and subscribers and things like that.
Hey, just a quick note. So, if you have to say you're kind to people, if you have to say that you're really, really nice and courteous to people, then you're most likely not. Because people who are truly kind and courteous, their kindness and their generosity and their good human qualities really shine through in their actions, and they don't have to say that they are what they are. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and also, Chris brings up his recovery 7 years ago, which I don't really know if that was necessary to bring that up. I think that he could have just had his whole scandal and he could have just issued an apology without looking for sympathy here, but I can't really judge on that, Mark. You know what I'm saying? All right. Also, Chris goes on to talk about the fake therapist claims right here.
When Primak made his video about me, calling me a fake therapist, all right? First off, let's address this real quick. How is it in any way, shape, or form to take somebody like myself, where there's not one single clip out there of me saying I'm a licensed therapist, right? How is it okay for someone to slap the label of fake therapist on me?
Okay, so in Chris's defense, he should not be called a fake therapist when he's never claimed to be a therapist in the first place. What he has claimed to be is a mental health professional, which for those of you who don't know a lot about psychology, mental health professionals can vary from psychologists and psychiatrists to people who have worked in a mental health facility in their lifetime. Now, people who don't know a lot about psychology can automatically associate mental health professional with therapist, right? But that is not the case at all. It is indeed a much broader spectrum than that. I do think that Chris should have specified what type of mental health professional he is so that people can better understand what type of understanding he has on mental health as a whole.
T-By Alley made an entire video talking about how my mom, who got her PhD in psychology, about how what she's doing is illegal. Listen to me very carefully. If what my mom was doing was illegal, then what Dr. Phil is doing is illegal.
I actually did some research about practicing psychology with a PhD, and this is what I have found. I did not find an article directly pertaining to practicing psychology with a PhD, but I did find one about practicing psychology with a master's degree. And since a PhD is more advanced than a master's, this does apply to Chris's mother. So it is illegal to practice psychology independently with a master's degree, but it is legal to practice psychology under the supervision of a board-certified psychologist. Now, if Chris's mother was practicing psychology under the supervision of a board-certified psychologist, it is completely legal. Looking at his social blade, Chris loses anywhere between 26 and 100 subscribers a day. Now, before the whole scandal broke loose, he used to have about 100,000 subscribers, and now he has just a little over 80,000, but the number is dwindling. His channel is dying. He still has a cult following that takes everything he says as gospel and even applauded this apology video, which I don't understand. I don't get why they worshipped this video like it was so amazing of Chris to say what he did, when in reality, it was more so him placing the blame on other people. It was him not taking accountability for his actions like he should have. It was him blaming everybody else for his own actions and focusing on the minor details rather than the big problem, which is Chris manipulating people, Chris diagnosing people. And yeah, my opinion on this is that Chris has made a lot of mistakes, but is not as bad as people claim he is. He seems like a decent person. I'm sure that he has good intentions, but he's just not going about it in the right way. And especially with this video, he's just trying to save his career and justify himself and feed his son and pay his editor and do all that stuff. But the wrong way. It's as simple as that. When he made this video, he seemed very, very defensive, very angry, very agitated, and he started placing the blame on everybody else before he even looked at his own mistakes. And that's just not the way to address a scandal. If you, any of you, ever have a scandal in your life, you need to make sure that you take accountability for your actions and you sit back, reflect, and really, really think about what you did wrong, address it in an artful manner, and talk about it like in a similar fashion to how you would in your other videos. Because in other videos, Chris does not normally scream at the camera like this. He's normally very, very loud, very gregarious gestures, very vivacious. He seems very, very lively. But in this video, he was way louder than normal. He just sounded like he was really, really pissed off at everyone, which would make sense, but you know, you don't have to show that in that sort of video. You know what I'm saying? Also, I used to be a fan of Chris. I used to watch him. Like, I know a little bit about psychology, and I never found his mental health professional label to be misleading, but I really, really do think that he should have clarified what kind of mental health professional he is. Because that label can be misleading to people who don't know a lot about psychology. So, that being said, Chris has made a lot of mistakes in his career, as you have all seen, but nobody should be beating him up for it because mistakes are mistakes, and cancel culture does really hurt people. You've seen it with James Charles, and you saw it with Chris a couple months ago. Even though I'm not sure about how credible Chris is, I do know that like nobody should be making hate videos on him or saying things that simply aren't true, like the fake therapist claim. All right, so those are my opinions, but everybody, remember, everyone is entitled to their own opinions, okay? So please discuss your opinions in the comment section below, and for the love of God, be respectful. Be respectful, okay? Thank you so much for watching this video, and especially a huge thank you to those who made it to the end. I love you so, so, so much, and have an incredible day.